My fiancé faked a pregnancy to trap me, then lied that I cheated and my parents disowned me. They spent Christmas with her while I ate microwave chicken alone. I, 26M, was engaged to Chrissy, 29F. We were together for 6 years, and my family adored her. Her family liked me too, and for a while, life felt perfect. Then, last December, Chrissy told my mom she was pregnant, before she even told me. I should have known something was off right then. But instead of being upset about it, my mom, being the chronic blabbermouth she is, spread the news like wildfire. Suddenly, I was being pushed to propose. And like an idiot, I did. I bought a decent refurbished diamond ring for about $1,000, took Chrissy out to dinner, and popped the question. She said yes. I started planning the wedding, but Chrissy made it clear she didn't want anything cheap. No courthouse, no quick Vegas trip, she wanted a real venue. And I was willing to make it happen. But before I could put down any deposits, everything fell apart. After the engagement, Chrissy started acting different. Cold. Distant. She was always on her phone, guarding it like it held state secrets. If I so much as asked what she was doing, she'd snap at me, blaming pregnancy hormones and telling me she was just chatting with friends about the baby shower. I ignored it at first, but my best friend saw right through her. He told me, "Man, you've been ignoring red flags for years." And then he convinced me to check her phone. I didn't want to believe it, but something in my gut told me I had to know the truth. Chrissy charged her phone on the nightstand while she slept. She used her thumbprint to unlock it, easy enough for a light sleeper like me to bypass. One night, I quietly left the bed, tiptoed to the living room, and covered the phone with a towel to keep it from lighting up the room. I pressed her thumb onto it, and just like that, I was in. What I found made me sick. The messages were all there. Chrissy didn't even try to hide them, she just saved their entire conversation under the name Karen. There were texts, pictures, videos, and proof that the baby wasn't mine. The guy? Her coworker. Not just any coworker, her high school ex. The one she told me was just a friend. They'd been seeing each other for over a year. And the worst part? They were planning to trap me. In the texts, Chrissy laid it all out. She wanted my name on the birth certificate so I'd be legally on the hook for child support. Then, after a few years, she'd divorce me, bleed me dry for alimony, and run off to start a new life with him. She even bragged about how I was such a simp and would believe anything she told me. And the messages? They weren't just flirtatious. They were graphic. Chrissy and her affair partner shared some disgusting fantasies about her pregnancy and let's just say I can't unsee the things I read. I felt my stomach churn, but I kept going, screenshotting everything and texting the proof to myself. Hours must have passed, because eventually, Chrissy woke up and realized her phone was gone. She stormed into the living room, eyes wide with terror. She didn't even yell, she just whispered, "How long have you been reading?" "Long enough," I said. I told her to get out. She tried to play it off, calling it just an emotional affair, but I wasn't buying it. She packed a bag and left without a single tear, and I swear I saw a look of relief on her face. The next morning, my phone blew up. My mom was screaming at me, accusing me of cheating on Chrissy. Chrissy had beaten me to the punch and spun an entire sob story. My mom? She actually told me, "You're guilty until proven innocent," before blocking my number. My dad? He sucker punched me when I went to their house to explain. My grandparents? They banned me from Christmas. Chrissy was sitting in my parents' living room when I showed up. She started fake sobbing the second she saw me, and my dad didn't even let me speak, he just threw me out. So yeah. I spent Christmas alone. Eating a reheated supermarket chicken. After New Year's, I'd had enough. Chrissy was running around telling everyone I was a scumbag, and I was done playing defense. I lawyered up and sent her a legal letter demanding a DNA test and threatening a defamation lawsuit. She called me the second she got it, furious. I told her I was recording the call. She tried to backpedal, then finally cracked and admitted the baby wasn't mine. When I asked why she did all of this, her answer was simple. It was either you or me. She never loved me. I was just the safe option while she had her fun. When I posted the truth online, with proof, Chrissy panicked. She wiped her social media clean and posted some weak apology, still trying to paint herself as a victim. But the damage was done. She tried to beg my parents to convince me to take her back. My mom, after learning the truth, broke down and apologized. My dad? He looked at her like she was a stranger. They both felt awful, but I wasn't ready to forgive them. Not yet. Chrissy's new life didn't exactly work out. She and her affair partner lost their jobs, their social circle, and eventually had to move in with her parents. And that expensive stroller my mom bought for the baby shower? Chrissy refused to return it. Her parents called me, mortified by what she had done. But they weren't going to cut her off because, grandkids. As for me? I'm taking my time. My friends keep telling me there are plenty of fish in the sea, but I'm in no rush. I was hoping to be married by 30, but after all this, I think I'll take things slow. And Chrissy? Well, the last I heard, she's still wearing the engagement ring I bought her. Maybe to impress her new fiancé, who knows? But honestly, he can have her. Lesson learned, never ignore the red flags. Update 1. After Chrissy stormed out of the apartment that night, I thought I would have time to figure things out and regain some control over my life. I was wrong. She worked fast, too fast. By the time I reached out to family, she had already spun her version of events. My phone was blowing up with texts and voicemails, all filled with accusations. My mother left a long voicemail, accusing me of cheating, abandoning Chrissy while she was pregnant, and gaslighting an innocent woman. She said she was ashamed of me and that I was no longer welcome at home until I owned up to what I did. My dad did not even bother with words, just a short text that read, "You are not the son I raised." When I tried to call back, I realized my number was blocked. Meanwhile, Chrissy was all over social media, playing the victim. She posted pictures of herself crying, with captions like, "I never thought he would do this to me," and "betrayed at the worst possible time." The comments were filled with sympathy. Friends, co-workers, even distant relatives were offering their support. Some mutual friends messaged me, saying how disappointed they were and how Chrissy did not deserve to be treated this way. The worst part was seeing people I thought had my back completely turn on me without a second thought. The day after she left, I went to my parents' house, hoping I could explain what really happened. The moment I stepped onto the porch, my dad opened the door and sucker punched me. He did not even give me a chance to speak. He shoved me back and told me to leave before I caused any more damage to the family. My mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, glaring at me like I was the biggest disappointment in the world. Chrissy was there too, sitting on the couch, fake sobbing into a tissue while my grandmother comforted her. It was like something out of a bad movie. I tried to push my way inside, but my dad blocked me and said I was not welcome. I told him I had proof that Chrissy was lying. He shook his head and said, "If you had any proof, you would have shown it by now." That was when I realized they had already made up their minds. My mom told me to leave and figure out how to fix what I had done, and before I could argue, my dad slammed the door in my face. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone in my apartment with a microwave chicken and a bottle of whiskey. My friends tried to cheer me up, but it was not the same. Meanwhile, Chrissy was at my parents' house, celebrating like nothing happened. Photos of her sitting next to the Christmas tree with my family popped up on social media. She looked happy. My mom had written a caption that said, "We always take care of our own." It was like a punch to the gut. On New Year's Eve, my grandparents called to say I was not invited. They told me it would be too awkward if I showed up. They did not even sound apologetic. I hung up and blocked their number. I was done begging people to listen. I took the screenshots from Chrissy's phone and sent them to a lawyer. I wanted to cover my bases before doing anything public. The lawyer drafted a letter demanding a DNA test and threatening a defamation lawsuit. I sent it to Chrissy through certified mail and waited. A few days later, she called me, furious. I told her I was recording the call and she better watch what she said. She screamed at me to stop, but I refused. She tried to play innocent at first, saying I was ruining everything for her, but when I brought up the DNA test, she finally cracked and admitted the baby was not mine. I asked her why she did it. She said it was easier this way. Either she got me to take responsibility or she lost everything. Her family and mine expected us to be together, and she could not let me leave without looking like the victim. She admitted she had been seeing her affair partner for over a year and that their relationship had been more than just physical. The worst part was when she said she never loved me, that she just needed someone stable while she had her fun. I took the recording straight to my parents. I wanted to see their reaction when they heard it from her own mouth. My dad sat there, stone-faced, while my mom just broke down crying. She kept apologizing, saying she was so desperate for grandkids that she believed whatever Chrissy told her. My dad, on the other hand, looked furious. Not at Chrissy, but at me. He told me I should have handled it differently and not made things worse by dragging it out. He refused to admit he had been wrong to punch me or block me out of their lives. My grandmother apologized too, but by then, it was too little, too late. The damage was done. My parents tried to convince me to stay for dinner, to talk things over, but I told them I needed space. I was not ready to forgive them, not yet. They begged me to come to a make-up Christmas party, but the idea of sitting around with the same people who had cut me off during the holidays was unbearable. I told them I would think about it and left. As for Chrissy, things started falling apart for her quickly. Her friends turned on her when I posted the evidence online. She tried to play the victim, saying I had violated her privacy, but the damage was done. She deleted her social media accounts after getting flooded with comments calling her out. Her affair partner was not so lucky. Someone forwarded the screenshots to his workplace, and he was fired for misconduct. Chrissy tried to salvage their relationship, but I heard through mutual friends that he ghosted her after losing his job. My mom demanded Chrissy return the expensive baby gifts she had bought, but Chrissy refused. She even kept the engagement ring, saying it was compensation for everything she went through. It was a $1,000 ring, and honestly, I considered it a small price to pay to get rid of her. My parents tried reaching out more often after the truth came out, but I kept them at arm's length. They wanted to make amends, but I could not forget how easily they had turned on me. My dad still refused to fully admit he was wrong, and my mom kept trying to justify why she believed Chrissy. A few weeks later, I heard that Chrissy and her affair partner had moved out of state. She left town without returning any of the gifts or facing anyone. My friends joked that she was probably trying to start fresh where no one knew what she had done. I blocked her number and made it clear to my family that I did not want to hear anything more about her. I have been focusing on myself since then, trying to put everything behind me. My friends have been supportive, but it is hard not to feel bitter about what happened. I was hoping to be married by 30, but now I'm just taking things one day at a time. My family keeps pushing for another get-together, but I am not ready. They can try all they want, but they cannot undo what they did to me. No Christmas party, no heartfelt apologies, and no expensive gifts can make up for the fact that they threw me out without even hearing my side of the story. Update 2. After everything blew up with Chrissy and my parents, I thought things would start settling down. I was wrong. If anything, the fallout only got worse. My parents kept trying to reach out, but I ignored most of their calls and texts. I was still too pissed at how quickly they turned on me. My mom sent a long text about how she was so sorry and that she just wanted what was best for everyone. My dad, of course, refused to admit he was wrong and acted like I should just get over it already. I wasn't having any of it. Meanwhile, Chrissy had completely disappeared from social media, but that didn't stop the drama. Some mutual friends started coming out of the woodwork, telling me how she had been talking about me behind my back for years. Apparently, she had been complaining about how I wasn't ambitious enough, how she deserved better, and how I was lucky to have her. Funny, because I was the one paying most of the bills while she bounced between jobs she hated. Her affair partner, aka high school sweetheart, also wasn't having a great time. Word got around that he lost his job after someone, not me, I swear, sent the screenshots of their texts to his employer. He tried to blame me for it, but honestly, I could not care less. They were planning to screw me over and got what they deserved. Chrissy, on the other hand, was still trying to play the victim. A few weeks after our last conversation, she called me. I let it go to voicemail, and the message she left was wild. She was crying, saying she made a mistake and that she was confused about everything. She claimed her affair partner pressured her into things and that she never meant to hurt me. Classic Chrissy move, blame everyone but herself. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer just in case she tried anything stupid. My parents kept pushing for some kind of family healing. My mom tried to guilt trip me with, "We're your family, and we all make mistakes," but I couldn't just brush it off like they wanted. They literally threw me under the bus without even asking for my side. My dad still refused to apologize for punching me, which only made me more stubborn about keeping my distance. My grandparents, on the other hand, were a mixed bag. They apologized but also tried to justify why they believed Chrissy in the first place. She was just so convincing, my grandmother kept saying. Yeah, well, I guess that is what manipulators do. Chrissy's parents reached out too. They wanted to meet up and talk about everything that happened. I was hesitant but figured I had nothing to lose. When I met them, they looked exhausted, like they had been dealing with their own personal hell. They apologized for what Chrissy put me through and admitted they had no idea she was capable of all this. Her dad straight up told me he was embarrassed by her actions and that they were working through some things with her. I didn't ask for details, but I got the feeling Chrissy wasn't having an easy time. Turns out, her parents were dealing with their own issues because of her. Chrissy refused to return any of the baby gifts, including the stroller my mom spent a fortune on. Her parents tried convincing her to give it back, but she refused and even blocked them when they pushed too hard. Guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. One of Chrissy's ex-friends, who reached out to me after everything went public, told me that Chrissy had been trying to save face by telling people I was obsessed with ruining her life. She claimed I was stalking her and making it impossible for her to move on. Reality check, Chrissy, I haven't spoken to her since she admitted the baby wasn't mine. The only reason people found out what she did is because she couldn't stop running her mouth in the first place. Speaking of moving on, I tried dating again, but wow, I am carrying more baggage than I realized. I went on a couple of dates, but every time things got even slightly serious, I found myself pulling away. My friends have been supportive, but I can tell they're getting tired of hearing about the Chrissy drama. Can't blame them. I am tired of it too. Work has been a mess as well. Even though HR had my back after the anonymous complaints, the whole situation left a stain on my reputation. A couple of coworkers started treating me differently, and one even joked about how I dodged a bullet. Yeah, thanks for that. Super helpful. The legal side of things is wrapping up. I had to sign some paperwork to make sure I wasn't on the hook for anything related to the baby. Chrissy tried to fight it at first, claiming I should still step up, but my lawyer shut that down real quick. She eventually caved and signed the documents after realizing I wasn't going to budge. I heard from a mutual friend that Chrissy's new plan is to move out of state with her affair partner. Apparently, he has some family in another city, and they're planning to start over there. Good riddance. She can fool new people into believing her lies, but I am just glad to have her out of my life. My mom is still trying to fix things between us. She keeps inviting me over for dinner, but I am not ready. My dad acts like nothing happened, and my grandparents keep pushing for me to let it go because family is everything. Funny how family didn't seem to matter when they kicked me out of Christmas. At this point, I am focusing on myself. I started hitting the gym again, picked up a couple of new hobbies, and have been reconnecting with old friends. It feels good to have control over my life again. I am still on the fence about fully cutting ties with my family. They are trying, but the betrayal still stings. I keep thinking back to that Christmas Eve photo of Chrissy sitting with them, smiling, while I was sitting alone in my apartment. Some things are just hard to forget. My uncle, who was the only family member to reach out to me after things blew up, has been a huge support. He even admitted he suspected something was off with Chrissy but never said anything because he didn't want to interfere. He told me I should start fresh and put some distance between myself and my parents. He might be right. I have also been talking to a therapist. Probably the best decision I have made in a long time. Turns out, I have a lot to unpack, and it is going to take some time before I can fully trust people again. Chrissy did a number on me, and honestly, I did a number on myself by ignoring the red flags for so long. Looking back, I am just glad I caught her before I got trapped in a marriage and a life that wasn't mine. The thought of what could have been still keeps me up at night sometimes, but I remind myself that I dodged a lifetime of misery. Chrissy tried reaching out one last time through a mutual friend, saying she wanted to apologize and make things right. I told them to block her. I am done. I am moving on. I might not have my family fully back, and I might have lost a few friends along the way, but I finally have peace of mind. And that is worth more than anything. Update 3. Months have passed since everything went down with Chrissy, my family, and the fallout that followed. I won't lie, it has been a rough road trying to piece my life back together, but I am finally at a place where I can see things more clearly. Closure might be a myth, but moving forward? That is real. Chrissy and her affair partner ended up moving out of state like I suspected. Word through the grapevine is that they are living with his family and struggling to get back on their feet. Apparently, finding jobs when your reputation is in the gutter isn't as easy as they thought. Chrissy still has a private Instagram account where she occasionally posts vague, cryptic captions about starting over and lessons learned. Her parents reached out again, asking if I had any plans to talk to her for closure. I ignored them. I do not need closure from a liar. My family, on the other hand, is still on their apology tour. My mom sends me texts almost every week, checking in, asking when I will come by for dinner, or if we can put the past behind us. My dad tried a different approach. He texted me once, just saying, "Let's talk." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he did, just a demand disguised as an invitation. I never responded. I did end up meeting with my grandparents, though. They were the only ones who seemed genuinely sorry for how they treated me. They admitted they got caught up in the excitement of having a grandchild and just wanted everything to be okay. I get it. But that does not erase what happened. I told them I appreciated their apology but needed time. They understood, and for the first time in a while, it felt like someone in my family actually listened to me. The whole "let's have a second Christmas" idea never happened. I think they realized how ridiculous it sounded when I kept ignoring their attempts to plan it. My uncle, who has been the only real support from the start, told me they finally dropped it. He thinks they are starting to understand that some things can't just be smoothed over with a family dinner and a couple of presents. Work has been better. People eventually moved on from the drama, and HR has been supportive in making sure nothing else comes up. A couple of coworkers who initially distanced themselves from me actually apologized and admitted they had jumped to conclusions. I accepted their apologies, but I keep my distance. Fool me once and all that. Therapy has been a game changer. I have been working through the betrayal, the trust issues, and all the red flags I ignored for years. Turns out, I had been settling for a lot less than I deserved, not just with Chrissy but in general. It has been eye-opening, to say the least. My therapist said something that stuck with me: just because people are family doesn't mean they are safe. That hit hard. I am dating again, but cautiously. The first few dates were weird. I kept second-guessing everything, reading too much into small things, and expecting the worst. But I have met someone recently who is patient and understanding. She knows what I have been through and is taking things slow with me. No pressure, no expectations, just getting to know each other. It feels nice, and for the first time in a while, I do not feel like I have to constantly look over my shoulder. Chrissy tried reaching out one last time. I blocked her number months ago, but she managed to get a message to me through an old mutual friend. The message was basically a rambling monologue about how much she regrets everything, how she lost herself, and how she hopes I find happiness. Honestly, it was probably the most honest thing she has ever said, but I still did not respond. Nothing she says now will change what happened, and I am not interested in rehashing any of it. Reflecting on everything, I am grateful I found out the truth before it was too late. I dodged a bullet. No, an entire arsenal. The idea that I could have ended up married to Chrissy, raising a kid that wasn't mine, and being tied to her for the rest of my life still keeps me up some nights. But I remind myself that I got out. And that is all that matters. My parents and I are still distant. I might forgive them eventually, but right now, I am okay with keeping my boundaries firm. They made their choice when they turned their backs on me without a second thought, and I will not just let them waltz back into my life like nothing happened. Trust takes time to rebuild, and they are going to have to work for it if they really want me back. Looking back, I realize I spent too much time trying to prove myself to people who never really had my back. Now, I am learning to focus on the people who actually do. My friends, my uncle, my therapist, and even this new person I am dating. Those are the people who matter. If there is one lesson I have learned from all of this, it is to never ignore red flags. Trust your gut, set boundaries, and do not let guilt or obligation force you to stay in situations that do not serve you. I am moving forward. Maybe not perfectly, but at my own pace. And that is enough.